Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of Warhammer 40k Warpforge podcast, FORGECAST. I'm here joined by my partner in crime, the Ecclesiarch, and if you haven't yet watched part 1, if you want to see BJ the Brave and the Ecclesiarch get as giddy as a schoolboy on Christmas Eve, head over to the Ecclesiarch's channel. We have just been ranting and raving and getting all excited about the brand new patch that has just launched in Warpforge, and we're basically going to pick up the discussion from where we left off. So if you haven't seen that yet, pause it here, head over to the Ecclesiarch's channel. I'll leave a link below, watch part 1, and then come on right back. So, welcome back, Ecclesiarch. I believe we had just got into talking about about to start talking about the Necrons, right?
Yes.
Let's go. So, in terms of the Necrons, they're one of the other. The Ultramarines were the big one, and the Necrons are the other big one that EG have really gone to town on in buffing. What's your overall kind of feeling about what they've done with the Necrons?
Oh, I love it. I love it because they did what they needed to do, first of all, which is address the frenzy archetype. And they have also addressed some other cards that needed addressing because they did a very similar thing with Necrons as they did with Ultramarines, like addressing a lot of vanilla bad cards while also making different archetypes possible. And I get there's also a surprise there, which is basically them considering what was said about giving different warlords like a meaning, giving them like a role, specific role. And let's actually begin with number one, which is the frenzy trait change, right?
Yeah.
It has been basically reworked into destroyer, which makes more sense.
What do you think of
And
this?
it's so what does it say? Let me just check again. So units with this trait no longer attack automatically. Instead, the trait now has a different effect. If this unit could kill an enemy, that it cannot attack a different target. So it's going to be just like a front line. If it can kill something, it has to attack it, which is a really good, because that means, for example, when you play that Scorpack Destroyer to remove something, it's big because you remove something and the next turn doesn't just like strike into the enemy's face, but instead what it does is you can choose to attack something else if possible. So it's really good. It gives you more control over what you're doing. And what's important is that, well, Scorpic Destroyer was already a really good unit, no complaints there, but now the Ophidian Destroyer is finally going to be playable. Imagine that, because no longer going to be a dumb unit that just goes face every turn, but on the other hand, it can go face, or it can actually help you maintain the board. And I'm excited for that because this was a trash legendary. It is so good. And it's going to help what? It's going to help aggro Necrons the most, not the
Interesting.
control one.
Do you see that maybe going in a Nemesis deck?
Absolutely. Nemesis is for sure running this.
Interesting.
Like, very, very
I'd
good.
not thought about this card. I'd not thought about it. So it's the fact that you can control what you attack with it, you're saying, is what's going to make it really good.
Absolutely. Because the stats are alright. Like, straight energy
Yeah,
4/4 with stealth,
yeah.
remnant, really good.
And keep going back
For
into
sure.
stealth. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it's received even more support. Like, I want you to open the plasma site for a second there, which is another very big change. Like Canapec Plasma is the second row.
This card is
Yeah,
insane.
look at
This
that,
card
mate.
is
Like it's.
insane. Like,
I think this card is like a little bit even overpowered in a
yeah.
way because it's too energy.
But do you know what? It is overpowered, but there is a subtext that we've not talked about this patch. One of the things I love about this patch, and there's many things, but one of the things I love, this is an overpowered card, right? But it only works in a certain archetype. You would never
Yes.
play this and that's one of the things we were asking for is we want to.
Yes.
If you look at the Tau legendaries, you could basically build 10 Tau decks, and you could just click select on all the legendaries, and they just go into every single deck. That's not what I want to see. I want to see
Absolutely.
you play this legendary in this type of deck, and that's what they needed to do, is diversify in their deck card design a bit more. And this is a great example of it. This is like a really powerful 2-drop if you're leaning into the destroyer build. If you weren't leaning into the destroyer build though,
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't play it. So I think I think this is really awesome.
Yeah, they've nailed it. This is so good. You play this at the first turn, then you drop the Ophidian and it has regeneration. That's so crazy. I'd love to see what we can do with this. So two already very interesting additions to the Frenzy package, with the third being the flayed one over there. Oh my god.
So Help me get my head around this then. How are people going to use this?
Okay, there's gonna be a very simple thing of what you need to do with the flayed one. This is going to be used as a unit that you're gonna use as an aggro. This is gonna be only in aggro decks. Like you play this the first turn, and you play on Nemesis, and the enemy just takes it out, right? Easy,
Mm.
nothing serious. But suddenly, then you resurrect it and go face with it. It turns into fast. It bashes into the enemy's face. It dies again, but the remnant doesn't disappear at the end of the turn. Because why? Because of the new passive that Nemesis is going to have, right? So suddenly you have an actual big support for a Nemesis aggro deck,
But
which is nuts.
isn't the opponent just going to take out the remnant? Like who's ever going to leave the remnant now with this?
Well, but that's the thing. If you play this on turn one, they usually don't have anything to take it out with. They just kill the unit.
Mm.
Next turn, sure, they will have to, but don't forget that the next turn, unless you can resurrect it again, you play something else.
Mm.
So you're just gonna, or don't forget that Nemesis can actually now drop Necron warriors that have front line, have Vanguard. So it's like it all comes together. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
To
yeah.
create a very annoying thing to deal with. So if Nemesis keeps dropping his Necron warriors to just keep the remnants alive, he can keep resurrecting this and bashing it into face. It's gonna be so scary.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, so the flayed one, and then the other one that got the buff. What was the other one? As we're talking about the frenzy package, was it the big guy himself? Did the warlord
It
get
was the big
changed?
guy.
So the big guy now. What do you think to the lord? He's still an 8 cost unit, isn't he?
I mean, it's still a little weird because not doesn't really do anything. You just play an 8 energy 8/8 and just gets bigger. I don't think this is any useful. Unfortunately, this is the card that still stayed as a vanilla card because it's just too costly, and Necrons just have better options on that energy curve as it is. So probably this is not going to be played much. That's what I
Yeah.
think.
It almost needed like if it gained health or generated or something, with the destruction rather than just because you're never going to get the benefit of the +1 melee and range, right? Because it's still only got 8 health and it hasn't got armor.
Yeah,
Um, hmm, I don't know. I don't know what it needs, but it needs something. Um, yeah. I almost thought of, I don't know if you ever played like JRPGs where you can play like a Phoenix Down, which is like when it dies, it automatically. So like it automatically brings itself to life from its remnant or something like that. Or if its remnant's still there at the end of the turn, it automatically brings itself back or brings itself back with half health or something like that. That might have been cool, but I don't think this is enough. But I don't know. I don't know. Um,
yeah.
not super
That's a bit
happy.
of a vanilla change.
Yeah.
There's also the change with the monolith.
Oh yeah. Well, we need to talk
I
to talk about the monolith. We haven't talked yet about some other critical changes. So
Let's take a look at the list.
yeah, let's go back to let's go back to Nemesis and the Necron Warrior, which were the next two on there. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, Nemesis now has the passive to make sure that the remnants don't disappear at the end of your turn. That's so crazy. But it's the adjacent ones as well, so you can't just do it with your whole army. And as for the Necron Warriors received another stat nerf, but now they have a front line. I mean, Vanguard, which is really good. Because imagine how annoying this is. And honestly speaking, I find it kind of correct as well, lore wise, because you all got these old Necron warriors just hurling in the meat grinder and saying, okay, if you want to get to the Lord, you just gotta pass through all of these bad boys first. So it makes a lot of sense. And it's such a good combo with his passive. Like, that's so smart. Because now, as you said, the enemy is just gonna take out the remnant, right? Nope, because there he is. The Necron warrior just there. As it a measly 2/2/2. But you still have to attack it.
Yeah.
So it's very, very good.
Constant grot mode, and of course that's where the synergy with the buff to monolith comes in, which is something that we discussed, and I asked for lots. I said the thing about the monolith, just look at the art. There's a Necron warrior coming out of it. I said that I
Yes.
really wanted it to one of the we said it needed to have an instant effect, and I said one of the instant effects would be really good if 2 Praetorian guards came out. And then I kind of said, yeah, but that's too much. That's too powerful. And I said, if there was a way where maybe it was Necron Warriors, but they got Vanguard. Well, they actually just made the Necron Warrior have Vanguard, so it's pretty cool. The only thing is with this is to get the Warrior, I kind of wish it just deployed one because it's
I'm gonna say a few things later on that. Sorry, BJ, continue.
well, it's just that the thing that's amazing about it having Artifice is that this means that now it gives us an end game, right, where we just keep bringing
Yes.
Warriors out, but it doesn't address the problem of it having an instant effect as well, because on 10E you're not going to have the ability to trigger Artifice unless you've saved the defense card the whole way, the whole time to 0.
Or there's another two things there that could really help you out. One being the Implacable Conqueror, obviously, which is now going to be. You know that I've experimented with that. Like we even played one game where I had the monolith with Implacable Conqueror. But there's another thing that I'm gonna say once we get to some different changes,
All
and
right.
I'm gonna connect it with the monolith. But I agree, it's a good change, but doesn't seem like too impactful yet. But I think there is something that could be pretty interesting there. We'll get to that. There's of course the Ghost Warrior health to 3, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think that's now the best 2-drop. Well, I don't know if it's the best 2-drop. It's one of the best 2-drops. Like 3 can't be taken out by the Warlord. Um, and the ability then when it comes back, the stats, sorry, that thing has when it comes back is insane.
Yes. And it can be brought back over and over again, once again.
Yeah, another Nemesis one, right? Another good one for Nemesis.
Absolutely. And look at this. You got the Gauss Immortal increasing the range to 4. That was already a good card.
I know, man. That's really insane. And that's the card that helps you trade with, again, trade up to Tau, Chaos, trades up really well there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really interesting, man.
And then you got the Canopec Reanimator that has received a rally now.
Now let's look at this one because I've seen there's been quite a bit of chat about this, and some people think it's a nerf, some think it's a buff. So
What
basically,
nerf? Are you crazy people? This is like the same
well,
card.
well, the nerfs are it's lost regenerate, it's lost 2 health.
Oh, it doesn't have a
No,
regeneration
it's
and
it's
health.
it's
You're
lost.
right.
It used to be health 7. It had regenerate and it had 3/3 on stats, and now it's 2/2.
Oh, you're
So
right. You're
so
right.
so this is now a glass. It's gone from being like the idea of it was that it was an engine that it could stay on the board. Now it's more like a glass cannon, but it has tempo. It has a rally. It has the rally effect. So if you think about the
Hmm.
is it the Praetorian, the 3-drop, the Technomancer, sorry, that we play as a 3-drop, and then we cast a spell and we raise something. It's almost like a Technomancer in a sense. Imagine that your 4-drops died, which could be your stun, the stun unit, which now has Remnant, or it could be your Canoptech flanker, and then this guy just comes down and automatically brings it back to life, which is,
And then keeps doing it every turn it
but
survives.
it's not gonna survive because it's now a glass cannon, and that's the nerf of it.
Yes.
That's the bit where it's like, but I don't know. What do you think?
It's really hard to say on paper because it could be very strong in certain situations. If you remember, one of the bigger problems with Technomancer was usually if you put it behind a Lich card or a Praetorian, right? Now, if you have a Lich card and you use this to revive a Lich card, it could be a huge problem because you're not just going to go through a Lich card and kill this. It's very hard to do that. So, for sure, it's going to be a very interesting addition. But yeah, it's a nerf. Hadn't thought about the health and the regeneration. So, yeah, certainly a nerf in that regard.
Do you think yeah, I do think for me overall, I think it's a slight buff overall, although there are obviously bits that are nerfed because I think tempo counts for a lot in this game,
Absolutely.
and we already know how powerful the Technomancer is, and obviously Technomancer 3 energy, but you've then got to cast a spell with it, and we know there's some cheats for that, but after the cheats, you are spending energy to cast the spell, right? So, like, actually, for 5 energy and having a 5 health body, something that automatically reanimates is good. I think it's about what builds it fits into. It's going to need good 4-drops that are worth reanimating. Or something like you say, where maybe you play this, maybe you don't play it on 5, maybe you play it on 6 after a Lichgard or something. But yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Interesting
I
change.
mean, overall, you can't complain because nobody was playing it anyway. So,
No, true, true, true. And it hasn't got Remnant itself, so you can't just bring this
yeah,
back very
might be
easily.
a little too abusive if you can.
All right, so next up we got the Hamtech Wraith gains Remnant. This is the card that ignores Vanguard.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's gonna play it anyway.
No.
It's too bad in terms of stats to do
Yeah,
what
the
it's supposed
stats
to
are not
do.
the stats are not great. The Psychomancer's now gained Remnant, which is a strange one because the Psychomancer hasn't got a bad body, but obviously it's got a rally effect. And there's a few of these where they've gained Remnant, but obviously rally doesn't happen, does it, when you reanimate?
No.
So how do you feel about that one?
Um, sure.
That good?
I'll take. I was like, okay, I'll take it,
Yeah,
but I don't think it was necessary.
yeah. Now,
Absolutely.
now the Night Scythe is interesting, right? The Night Scythe is very, very
Oh,
interesting because the first thing is I think the Night Scythe is going to be more about what deck you put it in because the Night Scythe's always had this thing that if you control no other troops, deploy a Necron Warrior. So it that speaks to a deck where you don't really play anything in the first couple of turns. So that doesn't sound like a Nemesis deck where the remnants stick around. That's not what you want to be doing there. But maybe this could be maybe this could be in an Imatech control now because deploying a Necron Warrior, the Necron Warrior's changed, so you're actually getting Vanguard, which is blocking them going into the Night
yeah.
Scythe, and then the Night Scythe got a buff on range attack, which allows it to then trade up on the turn that it's now going to survive. So this is kind of interesting. What do you think?
I think it could find play in Nemesis potentially as well, maybe one copy. Like it really is going to depend on when we play. If we notice that people are still breaking your board easily, then this is a very good thing to just respam your board and just fill it up,
Mm,
reconstruct your board from nothing. See what I mean?
mm, mm. I also must ask you about Oricon and where he fits into Necrons after this, but we'll come back to that. So that was the Night Scythe. Interesting little buff there, benefiting from the change to Necron Warrior as well, of course. Now, next up, we got the Chronomancer and one of your favorites, the Lichgard. So let's get into the
Oh
5-drops.
yes,
So let's do the Chronomancer first. So the Chronomancer,
the legendary.
people hated the change. What do you think? The previous change to him, obviously. So they've changed it again. What do you think?
No, previous change was crap.
Yeah.
Let's see this one now. It has Remnant, which is really good. So friendly remnants do not disappear at the end of your turn. And then you got Talent Reanimate. Uh, this is an interesting one. I'll tell you why. Because uh, it seems like a bit of a waste with its passive. Because Nemesis already has that passive. But this is about all of the remnants, I guess. Mm, I think overall, giving it a remnant is a great idea, and giving it the talent to reanimate is also a great idea. But how about instead of giving like friendly remnants do not disappear, give flank to the remnants that you reanimate? I think that could be much better because I just don't see the friendly remnants don't disappear as much of a big deal because like you already got that it's not like in this game you're always able to have a full board, right? Adjacents with Nemesis is already enough. I guess it's not a much of a big deal,
I
honestly.
mean,
I
the
think
biggest one is Tomb World, right?
yeah.
You Tomb World, you Tomb World with this guy, and then like if they've got to take this guy out first, right? Because if they take anything else out, the remnants don't die, and it's going to be horrible to try and get rid of that Bob. But that feels very win more, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
we'll
not.
see, I guess.
It's
This
not.
is one of the things that we got to see
It's
in
not.
action.
It's not bad stats. So it it feels like a tempo card to me, if I'm honest, because it feels like if we played something on 3 and we played something on 4, and then we played this guy on 5, it might just put pressure on your opponent because he's got to get rid of he's got to spend a unit to attack to get rid of a remnant now. So
Hmm,
it does add to that's what remnants do, isn't it? They that's how they gain tempo, a bit like how the
that's true.
spirit stones do. So I do wonder whether but because of but the main tempo deck will probably be Nemesis, and I don't think Nemesis needs this guy because Nemesis got the ability himself. So I'm just not sure where his home's going to be, unless
Yeah,
it's
that's exactly my
Hmm.
point.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. All right. Who did we have next? The Lichgard. Now you wanted the extra health, you didn't get it. You got +1 melee attack instead. What do you think?
I guess right, to be honest, because my problem with the Lich card was that it was nerfed too much, first with the attack and then with the health, and apparently they decided to revert the attack. Which, you know what, I'll take it, because this way it's less cancerous, I guess.
Yeah.
Because a 6 health Lichgard, you gotta admit, is very toxic. But at the same time, like, making it so nerfed is trash, because then you get one of the most iconic units of the Necrons being crap. But now it's all right, because 5 damage is a big deal, because that means this thing can hurt the enemy Warlord quite a bit. That 1 damage makes a difference.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. Absolutely great.
They made
I
Lichgard
think that
great again. Well done.
they did it. They did it. It's still going to be played. It's still going to be awesome, but less toxic than in its prime.
Yeah.
So super.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I quite like that. All right, next up we got the command barge and the royal warden. The warden basically just went and got remnant, which again, it's a weird one, because when you bring it back to life, it doesn't get its rally. So yeah.
I mean, sure, but yeah.
Yeah, but it is good for tempo decks, right? Because it's a tempo ability. It does something, they get rid of it, and the body's back again. So I can definitely see it, and especially in more beginner decks as well. But the one that I'm really excited about is this.
So it's a flying unit. It's very slow once again. Here's the thing. My problem with Command Barge is that I literally have no reason to play this over the Reanimator, because Reanimator is cheaper and it has a rally as well, while also maintaining the talent. All this thing has going for itself is flying, which is not bad. I mean, I'm glad that it's no longer vanilla unit, but I don't think it's really that good. I think it's still gonna remain benched for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because it's 6 energy is a very weird spot. When you play this, and the Stormboy can just annihilate it.
I mean, yeah, it does suffer from veteran Stormboy syndrome.
You gotta love how Stormboy just dictates the meta.
I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I can't judge every card being bad because it gets taken out by veteran Stormboy, because it's like every card's bad. But it is, yeah, that is a problem. Outside of that, though, this is a very sensible change. And that talent is very powerful. The Necron Lord has it, the Ghost Ship has it, and they've given that to more things now. And there might be a deck that is like a board building deck that this does make sense in. I'm definitely going to test it. I'm happy that they made it flying, so let's see how it gets on. It's not a world beating one, but it's definitely a positive, a step in the right direction. Let's call it that. Now we talked about the Scortep Lord. Now the Necron Lord says change the Overlord powers to Reanimation Protocol, Hyperlogical Strategist, which is the Swiss Army knife, and the Curse. I don't know what the old Overlord powers were. Do you?
Yes, I do. The old ones were Reanimation for 1 energy, the Reanimation Protocol once again.
Yep.
The second one was Implacable Conqueror, and the third one was the Annihilation Command. Now, this had to change for sure, because some of the things have been changing. I'm glad that they left the Reanimation. Hyperlogical Strategist is always very good. And the Curse of the Pharaon, I love this, because this was what I was saying. I was saying that one of the problems with Necrons currently versus the Tau was that they just didn't have enough tools to stop the ever-rebuilding board. Now they will, because you can generate more curses, which is always nice. Necron Lord is still going to be a little bit slow, but I think with the support we have for Remnants, it's going to be a big deal.
Are Overlord powers still ephemeral?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, Overlord powers are not. So it basically drops a 1 energy ephemeral card in your hand, and then once you create it, they stay in your hand. This is the ephemeral one, the Indomitable Will. But whatever it generates, it stays, just like on VOD.
Ah, that's a big deal then.
Of course,
that's a big deal. Okay, nice. We already talked about the monolith. I'm excited. Do you think the monolith sees play?
I'll tell you that once we get to Immortal Pride.
Okay, let's do that. Well, okay, so we got Solar Pulse and Immortal Pride. So, yeah, let's get onto the onto page 3 on here. So the Solar Pulse was a bit of a nothing card before, and what it's become now is just like the ultimate kind of tech control card, right? I could absolutely see this being played in like an Imatech control.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it'd be 2 copies but maybe 1 copy makes sense. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. Like, this is something that we needed so much as Necron players. Like, I remember when I was playing Emotech in his prime, well, not in his prime, let's say after the Psychomancer was nerfed into not having the passive anymore, It was an auto loss against Tyranids because they would drop a big stealth unit, and what am I supposed to do? It was almost impossible because then he would just one shot you with the Bloodlust. So now, if you see that there's a lot of Tyranids running the one shot build, well, Solar Pulse, have fun. So it's important, and plus the camouflage removal once again support versus chaos because once again the Venom Crawler. What am I supposed to do against Venom Crawler, right? That instantly gets the camouflage. So yeah, welcome change for sure. I love this.
And the big one that you have been desperate to get onto is
Oh boy.
it used to cost 6, it now costs 5, and a huge change. Okay, talk about this one.
First of all, so we got the Grizzle Scarboy for Necrons now. But instead of it giving you health, it gives you your Warlord Talent costs 1 less. Play 2 of these, and your Warlord Talent is 0. Then you drop a monolith, and you can trigger it on that turn. If you're playing Orikon the Diviner, you can play it with a single one. So, and with Orikon the Diviner, that's where he comes in. Orikon the Diviner can get this the earliest, and he can get the monolith on demand. But once again, I think Imhotep is going to abuse it the most because when you play Imhotep, run 2 of these and follow by 2 conquering tyrants, and like good luck defeating that. Because newsflash for anybody who didn't know, Imhotep beats the Orc control, the Gaskell armor. It beats it, and now Orcs have almost no way to beat this with Grizzle Scarboy. So when it comes to control, they are gonna out control the Orcs. What the Orcs, however, are gonna have better than the Necrons are going to be the early game support. They're going to have a better early game. Necrons are going to have a better late game, but in the mirror matchup, if you have control versus control, Necrons are definitely going to have it. This is a very interesting card.
Yeah.
Some people have already mentioned that this might be too overpowered, but then I have a question, honestly, about it because it suffers from one thing that Grizzle Scarboy doesn't. You play this, you don't regain any health. And Grizzle Scarboy health is huge because when you play it, like it refills and it's really big. But I do think
Yeah,
that
but you know what does regain health? You know what does regain health?
Your Warlord power.
Imhotep's Warlord power. So I don't
Yes.
think I think on Imhotep this you're safe as houses with this. But I take your point on the other. Like maybe if you're trying to do an Orikon control, like because maybe it's like Orikon control. Because I am really trying to think like Orikon's so weird. He's got the best Warlord power that just doesn't have a home. Like he just doesn't have a build, but it's such a good power. And I'm wondering whether the Imhotep control is like the traditional Tomb World kind of fatigue, grind it out like you just say. You put these on, you put the big choppy thing on and the heal, and you win. And maybe Orikon control is a bit more of a sort of like mid-range, like proactive one that top ends with monolith. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know.
Could be for sure. Unless Nemesis is gonna kick them both out, then it's gonna be interesting.
Because maybe the Orikon control is where you play things like the solar pulse. Maybe you play them more like one-offs, right? And then because he can choose the card, you've got like it's more of a Swiss Army knife control. It's like what do I need now, and so you just put a lot more one-offs in there and stuff. It's I mean, dude, we got so much playtesting to do. It's gonna be awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see where this comes in, and I think it's gonna be quite scary, frankly. And finally, look at the final change. It's also a big one.
Annihilation command.
Change to Undying Legions. Cost reduced to 5, and description for the rest of the battle. When a friendly troop becomes a remnant, it gains a shield.
Yeah, I wanted to see the card for this because it's a whole change to name and everything, isn't it? Here it is.
Yep, there you go.
The rest of the battle when a troop comes to remnant against a shield. Do you think this sees play?
Hard to say. Hard to say because it's quite slow. Because 5 energy is a lot of energy. And it doesn't really have that much of a space on a late game control deck because they're really not gonna focus on remnants, I guess. And on but then again, think about it. Jesus, no, wait. Divination of Menhir. So when you go second, this could be very scary, no?
Yeah.
I mean,
it automatic. There's an interesting thing with Nemesis, right? Because I think there's 2 decks that come to mind with Nemesis. There's one that's more like aggro based, And we forgot to say it earlier, and he won't be happy if we don't say so. Shout out to Barrick, who came up with the idea of giving Flayed one fast. It was his idea, and they took that on, so well done. But I think there's that type of build, and then there's a build that's more tempo based, but it's a bit more like my old Ghost Axe kind of build, and this could go really well in that because combining with Nemesis' ability where the remnants don't die, it just gives you a card that carries the deck into the late game, just carries it, right? Like even Necron Warriors become a massive problem, don't they, with the Vanguard and shielded remnants. Like you're just never going to get through it.
Man, Resurrection Orb is going to be meta.
Truly a relentless horde. That's what this card makes me think of with Nemesis, is like a true
I mean, it's how it's supposed to be, honestly. So yeah, it's Necrons, right?
Oh man, so excited. Do you know the only problem is everyone's going to be playing Ultramarines and Necrons? That's the only downside to this patch. It's like
no, there's still going to be a lot of chaos.
Yep, chaos. That's true. Yeah, I think
no matter what you do, you're never kicking chaos out. Plus, I'm interested to see Galaron now. Perhaps he can do some stuff. We'll see.
Okay, so overall, we're pretty happy with the Necron changes, yeah?
Yes, we are.
Lots and lots of different. Now there are a few other buffs that we got, but they're a lot smaller. So we got the Simharm. I don't know what you're thinking, but for me, like the big thing here, the big win is like the Ranger. I think having a 2-drop with stealth is pretty good. And finally, they listened about the Dire Avenger Exat, which was just annoying me more purely from a lore perspective. Like they're supposed to have the best shuriken catapults, and now they actually have that, so that's pretty good. The Wraithguard's kind of interesting, you know. The Wraithguard. You think the Wraithguard's worth it now? Only cost.
Can you just bring it up?
Yeah, let's get it up. Because basically, the problem with the Wraithguard was it had a nice buff from the Spirit Stones, but it used to cost 2. Whereas now, as I can show you,
I think it's still gonna be slow.
God, where is it? Wraith Blade. It's a Wraithguard. It's a 4-drop, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a 4-drop or a 3-drop. Yeah, there it is.
There it is. Yeah, so basically now it only costs 1 stone to benefit from to basically have what 5 ranged attack and 6 health for 4 energy. And Vanguard.
You know what my problem with this? This card on its own is very crappy, while all the other meta Spirit Stone cards that we use are good even if you drop them like that. Like you drop a Spirit Seer, it's still 5 energy, 5/5. You drop the Wraith Blade, it's still a 5/6 with Vanguard.
But they cost 5. They cost 5 energy.
That is true.
I'm wondering about this guy in Anvir, dude, because Anvir typically is like a control deck. The first turn you generally want to use his hero power, although I'm sad they didn't reduce that to 1. But generally you do that. That gives you the stone, and that gives you the 1 stone to be able to drop this early, and suddenly you've got a 6 health Vanguard that help, just things that help carry you through to the late game. I could see me running that, and of course if you get it off of Reclaim the Stars, you're getting this guy for 0 cost. So it's a very cheap Vanguard. What do you think in Anvir?
I think it's all right, but I'm not sure if they'll find a place to play that, especially considering now the snipers are going to be good. Yeah. I think the time for Eldar and the others will come. Mostly, EG apparently we're focusing on the Ultramarines and Necrons, and I'm very happy, as well as the Tau. So one at a time, I guess, one step at a time. Yeah. The only thing that I kind of don't like about the Eldar right now, I think they kind of got the short end of the stick, is that their anti-stealth and anti-camouflage is a high cost. Which
the Dire Avenger Exat.
Yeah, they kind of got hit in that regard, I think.
This guy? Well, I mean, he was useless before. At least he's a tech card. At least he does something.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, I'm totally up there. Like, I like it. And I think the next time already, when they start making changes for Eldar and the others, hopefully with the same dedication as with this one, we're going to see some good things. So we're going to make some suggestions again. And I think one of the things that they really need to do down the line is to create the anti-armor thing, like the Armor Thunder or whatever Barrick was suggesting, right? That could be so good for Eldar, like Fire Prisms and things like that. So a lot of interesting things they can do down the line. And I think finally we have started to take the correct path for Warpforge, and I'm very happy. And honestly speaking, I think Leviathan changes are amazing. Just gonna put it out there.
You do.
Yeah, like first of all, the gargoyle with flank, that's a big deal. Nobody's thinking about. I haven't seen anybody talking about that. That's so good.
I think it's really
Like
good. Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing because you can use it as a flank now for 3 range. That's great, but at the same time, it has tide, so it at 6 energy, it's a 6 health fixed range attack flank. At 9 energy, it's even bigger, and like it's a big deal. I always wanted gargoyles to be playable because they're flyers and they're cool with that swarm. So this is a big deal, and not only that, there's some other good changes with them as well, like first of all, the rapacious hunger change is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
So we gone up to
like
oh, I lost you a minute. Hold up.
yeah, there we go. It's on 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the final one. Look at that.
That's brilliant. I would rather pay 6 energy and have a more definitive clear. I think 2 is not enough. This gives them an answer to drones. I know drones isn't a problem, but it's not the only thing, right? Three, the difference between 2 and 3 is massive. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I agree. And you still got the heal benefit as well. So this is very cool. This is a very nice change. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely very good change.
And the Darkened Skies,
And
what do you think to that one?
yeah, so you got a combo now with Darkened Skies. So you got more support for control. Is the very first one, BJ. Yeah, there you go.
It's a new card. We didn't have this.
Yeah, pretty
Completely new
much.
card. How does it compare to Traitor's Hate? So Traitor's Hate does 2 damage, but it hurts yourself, doesn't it?
Yeah, this one
Um,
only does it to enemies.
this one does
What
it
did
to
what
everyone.
did this what did this used to do?
It used to do. It used to have a synergy with flyers, so it would deal 2 damage per
Ah,
flyer or
okay.
something. It was never used.
Yeah.
But what's cool about, I was thinking about the Uriel ability, right? Because Uriel, you pay 2 energy, and
Mm-hmm.
it does 1 damage to 3 adjacent units. But this is just doing 1 to everything.
Yes.
I think this is in pretty much every Tyranid deck. Tyranids don't have tons of pings unless you're playing Venom Throat. That's also the interesting thing is the combo with the Venom Throat, right? Like now that means you can do like 2 damage to something with the ping. I think
Absolutely.
this is very 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 cool, and it's going to make a big difference. The only problem is I do think Toonies might be struggling just for other reasons. Although they did traditionally do well against Necrons, right? And if Necrons come back, then maybe.
I think people are missing something on Tyranids. Like, it's just that I think the Tau really kicked them out. Because other than that, I think people have been underestimating Neurothrope a lot. Because when I was playing Orkz, more specifically when I was playing the Gaskell armor before the nerf, one of the harder things for me was to deal with infestation node based Tyranids because they were rebuilding their ranks like crazy because of the infestation node. Now they have that armor as well with the thing. I think that people are just not adapting to the Tyranid changes because they were so used to the monkey uh, brainless play style that now they're not noticing how good the control is. Because I mean I think Venom Thrope is going to be pretty good. And even other than that, like you can still play Swarm Lord, you can still play Vandergast. I think Tervigon is gonna suffer still, though High Fleet Leviathan has been buffed, which is great.
Yeah,
And
it's
look
come
at
down 1.
that.
Yeah, it's come down 1. Yeah. And then
Interesting card with the
we
Ravener
should
though.
talk about the Ravener. We should talk about this. There's been a lot of discussion about the Ravener. So one of the things we asked for with the Ravener was flank. We said that should be now they gave flank to Gargoyle, and quite honestly, to your point, I really like that they gave it to Gargoyle. I think having it with the Tide makes that card really, really interesting. But what they did do is they did give the Ravener an ability, and I'll just say a couple of thoughts about it. Like, one of the things we talked about earlier, and one of my things one of the wishes for the devs was to make cards that weren't necessarily in every deck, but deepen the squad. Remember we were talking about the best team versus the best squad, and like it feels like a sideboard card, right? Like in Magic, for example, where you'd pull this in because we're struggling with stealth units. And that's what I like about this. Ravener is not suddenly going to be in every Tyranid deck, but in stealth metas, at least we've got something that can answer it.
Absolutely.
I still don't think the stats are very good, to be honest. But if it is dealing 3 damage, then the stats are okay. You know, it's a very situational card, but it's good in that situation. That's my thought. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think that once again, adding dedicated like anti-stealth is really good. And honestly speaking, like I like the route where Warforge is going. I'm gonna make a parallel with HHL. Thing that I think Warpforge is doing better currently. There was in HHL mostly when we had anti-stealth cards, they were neutral cards that everybody could use. And only some factions get their own dedicated anti-stealth cards. For example, the Blood Angels had a 3 energy card that deals 1 damage to all enemies, and for every enemy killed, you draw a card, and it was also remove stealth from everybody. So I always preferred that kind of approach rather than the neutral ones, because with the neutral ones, it always felt like I have to slap this useless card in my deck every single time. Now, I think the Ravener having like dedicated different anti-stealth for his faction is way more interesting because, for example, for the Necrons, you get the anti-stealth that is also a blind. For Ultramarines, you get a cool body. For Tyranids, it's a little weaker, but I think it's fair because who's the one using stealth mostly? It's the Tyranids, right? So it only makes sense for them to not have that great of an anti-stealth. One of the things that I never really understood in HHL, like in the past, was that Raven Guard were the stealth abusers, obviously, and they had the best anti-stealth, which was this land speeder that was 5 energy, 6 damage, 5 health with a flank and the rally to remove stealth from everything. Like I was always thinking, why do these guys get the best anti-stealth? They are the stealth faction. So I kind of like it that the Tyranids don't have the best anti-stealth. I think it makes sense to me at some point. So it's okay.
All
I would
right.
say.
All right. Well, there we have it. So, what I like to do now is we often have a section called Card of the Week, but obviously, as we've had such a big patch, I thought what we'd do is just to kind of summarize this bit is to say, well, like, what is our card of the patch? So, what is your
Mm,
favorite card from the patch, and maybe what is the one that you think might be either the worst one or just a little bit kind of like slept on.
Well, some of you are probably expecting that I'll choose a Necron as my favorite, but I'm not gonna choose a Necron. Actually, my favorite is the Storm Talon, the
Mm.
Ultramarine. This is gonna be so big. Like that's gonna be such a great 7 drop, and you're now gonna have yet another thing to combo with Codex. Overall, I'm more excited for Ultramarines than Necrons because their changes are a little cooler. But for the Necrons as well, I think one of the cards that I'm like having question marks around is Immortal Pride because I'm just a little bit afraid of how it might break the game
Yeah.
because we might end up in 30-minute games quite a bit if it goes into a control meta. But at the same time, there might be the tempo aggro still. It's an EG game overall. But if we consider just how much the Orkz were a problem with their armor, these guys might also become a problem with their armor. We will see.
The only
Honestly,
different,
we'll see.
the only thing is if Necrons go down that route is that if you play big-bodied mid-range decks, that could be an issue for the Necrons because Orcs have Will of Gork. Orcs have no mucking about.
Yes.
And Tyranids don't have the same level of kind of like auto removal of those big units. And so things like Buggy's late game Abaddon deck with Black Crusade, things like some of the new Ultramarine units, some of those big units, they won't care about your 1 armor because they're hitting you for 7, 8 damage a turn, right? So like they could be there could be some counterplay if it goes down that route. But I agree with you. It's definitely the one that makes me most nervous is the Immortal Pride. Like it could be. Ooh, please don't completely break the game. But hey, we shall see. Yeah, good one. I really like your favorite one there. I think man, there's so many good ones, isn't there? I think I've got to say Sicarius. Just maybe that's my card of the patch.
Oh,
Just because like they've tried so many times to get this card right, and I feel like they finally have. I feel like Sicarius is a really not only is it going to be a good card, I think it genuinely will be effective in the game, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun as well. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun, like to just use just that feeling of like a bit like the Oberon thing where you drop it and like there's this massive unit you've got to deal with before you can continue, and then the whole thing
Totally.
about like making your hand cheaper kind of gives me like a what's the reclaim the stars vibe, right? Like I'm thinking, like I'm imagining like this Calgar hands where we've been drawing and we've got a big hand, and then reclaim the stars just makes everything cheap, and you just kind of have this massive tempo splurge. Like I'm kind of getting that vibe from the talent. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'd probably say like the one that might be somewhat like low key, kind of going under the radar a little bit is probably like the Necron warrior. I know it sounds weird, but just the ability to have Vanguard, like I think that makes Nemesis suddenly a way more survivable lord. Like one of the problems I used to have with my Ghost Arc deck, for example, is that because he has 35 health, people could beat him down and you just die before you got to all your cool stuff. But the fact that the amount of times where the enemy lord's now going to have to hit, or the flanker's going to have to hit, something's going to have to deal with this warrior.
Yeah,
I think the Necron warrior might be low key like super good now. So
absolutely. It actually does something now.
yeah, 100%.
It's a big deal. It is a big deal.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think so. I think so. So uh, just to finish, what I was gonna do is for a bit of fun. We haven't actually got the full obviously the new cards like in the game, Ecclesiarch. But what I was thinking is that we might have a go at just kind of like uh just theory crafting an Imatech control deck, because I know that that's like your bag and that's like one of the things that you like really
Sure.
specialized in. And I just thought it might be fun to kind of like walk through what we think that might look like. Now I've just realized I will need to share a different screen on here. Let me do this. Oh, they've already something's just popped up. I've just got an ultramarine deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let me also check that out.
I'm wondering whether that's hold up, a share screen.
You know what else we also need to consider? There's going to be reinforcements dropping soon, and most probably the next in line are the Necrons. So, yikes.
100%. How do I share? Why is it not? Can I not share my screen option?
Can you share now?
I popped out the player. How have I done that? Oh, right. Okay, let's go again. So share. Here we go. Here we go. Go live. Full screen. Okay.
And Kato Sicarius is in the shop.
Yeah. Yeah. Sakaris is in the shop. They're already selling us on the new bundle. Okay, so I'm trying to do is just get rid of this and do this. No, that's not working, is it? Okay. Sorry about this, guys. I'm just trying to figure out a way we could have our face on the screen as well, but that's not going to work. So we'll just do it this way instead. Now, can you see Warpforge?
Sure.
Okay, so people can see Warpforge, you can see Warpforge, you just can't see our faces, but that's fine. We
Yep.
can get away with that. Okay, so let's go into a Imatech deck. Okay, so this would be the FORGECAST. First
Okay.
attempt. All right,
So,
so what are we trying to? What is our win con? How do we win with an Imatech control deck?
currently with an Imotech control deck, you have two ways of winning. It's either a superior Tomb World play, where you just play a Tomb World and they just can't clear it anymore,
Okay, so we want that one
or
though.
or you have an early Conquering Tyrant and you just bash the enemy to death. That's usually how you win with Imotech.
Right, okay. So either that or a Conquering Tyrant, right? So would you run one or two Conquering Tyrants?
I always run 2.
Okay.
Especially if we want to play with the Immortal Pride now, it's going to be... Oh, I think you shut off the... no, it's fine.
Okay, so we're going to go Tomb World and Conquering Tyrant as our win cons.
And obviously we will want to drop double Immortal Pride in there.
Yeah, and that's obviously the client hasn't updated yet, guys. So obviously I'm going to put this, that is saying it costs 6 here, but it's obviously going to cost 5, and it's going to give 1 armor. And when it says 1 armor to your units, your Warlord counts as one of your units, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So Imotech, this is a question that someone asked on Discord, so Imotech does get that.
You're going to get the Lichgard, obviously, because you're not playing Imotech without the Lichgard.
And we're going to run the flankers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Score pack is going to be crucial as always. And you do want to get your Triarch Praetorian. So I call this the 3 energy package. These 3 energy cards, Technomancer, Tombblade, and Technomancer are just always there because they're your bread and butter. It's like very important to have those.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, the real question
can you ever get away with 1 Technomancer? I'd be interested to see.
You could.
Yeah, especially now we've got other ways of reanimating, but maybe in this particular deck, maybe it's still 2, but let's see. We can always come back to it. So anything else on the early game?
Let's... well, I do like to run double Extermination Protocol.
They didn't always used to run this though, did they? It's one of those where it is potentially a cuttable card, but it is good for triggering Artifice.
Yes, it is. And speaking of which, you do want your hex marks.
Interesting. I wasn't so sure that we'd be going with hex marks anymore.
The thing is with, like, you still need an AoE removal, so you probably are going to go with hex mark, especially considering how some people will start going wide. You want to get your... Yeah, sorry?
Speaking of AoE, do we still run the Scythe Assaults?
Yeah, we do.
So 2 Scythe Assaults. And what about the Curse? Would we bother with that?
We could go with 1 or 2.
Let's put 1 in for now. Let's put 1
now, for starters, I mean, Nightside could obviously be good. Let's try 2 Nightsides.
Would you run those over the Psychomancer?
That's a good question, and honestly speaking, I'm not sure. But Nightside just seems really good now.
The question with Nightside was always, how do you feel if you don't get the Necron Warrior, right? Like,
but then there's the thing. Actually, you might not want to run the Nightside because it will ruin your Tomb World. So probably not in a Tomb World, Imotech. Yeah. Psychomancer,
I'm wondering whether Nightside goes into Oricon control. You know, we were talking about that Oricon control idea earlier.
With Oricon, it could.
I'm wondering whether it goes in there. I'm going to try and build that. Okay, so let's keep going. So
maybe Psychomancer a copy. A Solar Pulse, probably. 1 copy of Solar Pulse, probably you want to have. Of course, you need the double Doomsight. It's amazing.
We've only got 4 cards left.
We would go for Oberon, probably.
Not Necron Lord?
Necron Lord too.
Okay, and what about that?
And now and you do need double Methodical, yeah.
One of the things that I think it was Barrick was saying is that you could run 1 Methodical and then you could run 2 of the Swiss Army Knife cards, you know, the 2 drops. Because that can get you it can get you this one. It can get you additional Immortal Prides as well, by the way. Which is
in my current Imotech, I am running 2 of these, as you know. It's just that now that we've added Immortal Pride to it, you know what? What I would do, actually, we would run put in double Hyperlogical Strategist.
Yeah.
And maybe instead of Solar Pulse, you want to put in there the Methodical, and you switch it in and out depending on the meta, I guess. So switch something else, though, not that, obviously. Okay. But maybe we could do some changes, like we're not touching the early game, that's for sure. Maybe we could, but Oberon is really good too. It's a hard question what you would want to replace here. Because now with the Immortal Pride, it's getting quite questionable.
I wonder whether you've got a scrim on, like, does it become one protocol, one strategist?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe even one Technomancer or one Tomb. Like, the Technomancer Tombblade is an interesting one too, right? Because the Tombblade got nerfed. It's still very good, but did get nerfed. But if you drop those, obviously Technomancers, that the synergy between those two is important because you go down to 1-on-1. But we aren't exactly replacing Technomancer with other with anything else here. We haven't even got the one drop that brings something back from the dead.
Yeah, that could work.
The reanimation. Do you think you can go away without that? No?
I think you could. It's just that I think all is going to depend on how strong Immortal Pride is going to be.
You only go with one hex mark?
That could work, or maybe one site assault.
Question is though, what's the Tomb World for? Like, you've got to have some decent bodies, haven't you, for the Tomb World? I mean, obviously we've got...
I mean, you got the Lichgard, you got the Scorpex, you got the Necron, you got the Vargard, Priarchs. It's pretty good. Still.
What's the card that you'd be trying to get? What's missing? What would we want to put in that's not in?
Come again?
What would we want to put in the deck that isn't currently in the deck?
I don't think anything.
In that case, you've nailed it.
Yeah, maybe maybe if you want that you could play like a different type with the Implacable Conqueror and more heavy, but
it's not a weather forecast; it's the FORGECAST. So let's just get that right.
This could be one. This could be one.
Right, let's do one more. I've got another challenge for you because I'm really curious, and it's not obvious. Let's try and build an Oricon control deck.
Okay,
let's go down a different route because obviously we could just take the deck we just made and just slap Oricon on it, right? But
it wouldn't work because Oricon is a little weaker. It has low HP and no health.
So let's call it mid-range control. Then, so we're looking.
I was actually thinking of not mid-range, but I was actually thinking of giving this guy Implacable Conqueror into Monolith and something like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's kind of what I mean.
Ah, all right, gotcha.
Let's just call it Mono. What's his kit? Monocan. Monocan.
You know what we could do? We could make a mixture of Scarabs and Monoliths. That could be pretty cool.
Monolith the Diviner. There we go. So we're going to go Oricon. And we're already committing to the Monolith. Okay. How would we make this work from here? Let's see. So Oricon gives us choice, doesn't he? And he gives us flexibility. So I feel more comfortable with Oricon of having one-offs than I do with other warlords, right? Because we're more likely to see the thing we need. So that's something to bear in mind.
So Implacable Conqueror certainly just goes in there.
Implacable Conqueror, which one's that? Oh, this one, yeah.
I think that could be pretty cool. And then you would have double Lichgard. Let me tell you what would be funny about this. You would put in Lichgard only. Then you would put Vargard maybe as well. Let me tell you how I would do this. Put in a Vargard. Put double Triarch Stalker.
What is this?
And now go for the Scarab package first.
Ah, Scarabs. So, okay, so you're going down a different route that I was thinking. But that's fine. We'll build this out. The other one I was thinking was that we kind of skip the early game to make use of Night Scythe. Like,
oh,
do you know what I mean?
Okay.
The idea is that you're looking for this to be your first play on E4, and then you're having outside of, obviously we'll put the flankers in, but the idea that the first proactive play could be this, and then you're into Lichgard, and then you have your bigger units. That's kind of where I was thinking. But we can go down the Scarab route here. That might make more sense Almost like an
So
early game.
double spider nest, and to put the canoptic spider in the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Now go a little
We
upwards,
got to put the one drop in, right? Have we?
and yeah, you would take like the one drop scarab for sure. You would go for extermination and reanimation, not reanimation, maybe
Recon.
reconstruction. Yeah, definitely you go for that, both. Then you go for hyperlogical as well as protection protocol because you usually slap that on the scarab.
Do we play this guy now with all these artifice triggers?
Yeah, why not? It could be good. Protection protocol as well, double. And double self destruction. You put it there.
Oh no. No. We're never going to get to the monolith. Can we just run one of these? We're running double. we're running double stalker. If you play double this, then you kind of. I feel like you just waste stalker, then it just does nothing.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, if we take a look, what we're basically doing is we're basically scarabing the opponent, which is going to buy you the early game. And then you start dropping these heavy units in the late game for cheap because you've played the implacable and it becomes very scary.
Yeah, because implacable is like lower the cost of all troops in your deck, isn't it?
Maybe have one implacable, I'm not sure, but two could be good because it increases the chances of you pulling. But yeah, maybe one.
Does it have good synergy though? Because we don't have card draw. We have card choice, but not card draw. And we've got a lot of stratagems. This is only troops that get reduced. So I feel like this would have been better in the Night Scythe route and actually been more troop based.
Let's try that.
Okay, well let's finish this then. So if we were gonna just take Backable out.
Then we're gonna drop the monolith as well.
Oh, well, then we've just built a Scarab deck.
Yeah. So yeah, we wanna discard this. We wanna discard this.
Okay.
Let's discard it and build a mid range with the Night Scythe and Implacable and so on.
Still. Shit. Okay. Yeah. So if we're gonna run the Night Scythe, right? Because the part of my intention for this is to play Orokin that's not Scarabs. You know? So if we were gonna go Night Scythe, right? We're obviously giving up the first 2 turns. So we've got to think about like how we control and how we come back. So we'd still probably need to run the Tombblade and Praetorian, or at least this we'd have to have the Destroyer, right? Because turn 4 we need to be doing something. E4 we need to be doing something. So we could put the Destroyers in and the Night Scythe. Do we put the 3 drops in?
I think the 3 drops are really good to miss.
I think Praetorians go in. I'm not sure if we put these ones in at the minute.
Yeah, maybe not. Well, I mean, Tombblade could still be good. Technomancer could be ditched. Maybe one Technomancer.
Yeah, one feels. But again, like maybe it's not even, because if we're not going to go too heavy, because we might even drop these we might even drop these. Like maybe maybe this is where you play this guy.
Could be. If you're not getting Technomancers, you could certainly go for.
You've got the Lichgard. If you think
and
about
now you drop your Implacable in there, right?
we really want to go second, don't we? So we get this for 3.
Yeah, it's usually better if you go second.
That would be. Lichgard is 5. Probably we would want Doom Scythe still. We don't actually have a lot for like Doom Scythe, Monolith, Oberon. These are cards that Night Scythe. You can't reanimate these. We don't want Spider. It's not really a reanimate deck. That's what I'm thinking. That it's actually not a reanimate deck, isn't it? It's not reliant
Yeah,
on
it is.
reanimate.
It's not. It's not.
So if we were going down that route, we'd put the Scythe Assaults in, and we'd probably put Curses in because we wouldn't play him then if it's right. Play the Barge because right. Probably would play Plasmancer or Hexmat, wouldn't we? Maybe it's Plasmancer. Necron Lord. Logical. 3 cards short. Why haven't we put in? Put the 3 drops in.
Nope. We got only Praetorian.
Maybe the Psychomancer makes sense because we're not too worried about reanimating him. It's more the it does help us come back in that tempo war that we've given up in the early turns.
Yeah, I guess what we're looking for is to do the implacable and just drop the very late game units, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess you will need one side assault at least. Do we have side assault in there?
Yeah, we've got 2.
Okay, yeah, super.
Maybe a protection protocol makes sense. Can you stick that on the? Can you put that on the bloody monolith?
Yeah, of course.
Oh boy, let's put one of those in. If we're not going to go with the 3 drop, we're not going to go with the Technomancer. Maybe putting this makes sense because we've got bigger units. So even just giving them the even just getting the Vanguard value might make more sense. Don't know what the next.
Doom
We
Scythe.
didn't put the size in, did we?
So basically, you're playing the monolith build with this.
Maybe we want that other Psychomancer.
The other one?
On pro. Isn't it? We need hypological strategist in this. We're not.
I don't think so.
It's not massively like artifice heavy, is it?
No, it's not. Plus,
Yeah.
like, what are you even fishing for, right?
So let's have a look, see what this looks like. Okay, so the extermination gives us early game removal. The protocol, the reconstitution protocols are just great because we've got all these big units that we can then just bring back.
Yep.
For 1, so that's going to be insane. Like we're going to do monolith loops or Oberon loops and Necron Lord loops. Oh my lord! Protection protocol gives us some reanimate because we don't have much, but it just gives us something, or it just slaps a massive Vanguard to help protect us. Praetorian obviously is our earliest defense. If we don't get it, we've got the Night Scythe as a proactive, or we've got the Psychomancer or the Destroyer as the flank. So we are into the game at this point, and then it's just like bomb city, isn't it? We've got Doom Scythe again to help us if we're still trying to come back. Placable Conqueror is like the, can we get that off? Do we get the? That would be insane, wouldn't it, if we did that?
The Menhir one, right?
That's pretty interesting. Oh, we don't need self-destruction.
Oh yeah. Nope. So that gives us another place.
Yeah. That could be the second stun guy, Psychomancer. Yeah. Kind of looks like that. It's not bad.
Yep.
Okay, there we go. So that is it from us this week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed ForgeCast. We've got an exciting patch ahead of us. We've got a couple of decks that we've just gone through there. Let us know in the comments what you're excited to go and play. Drop us your biggest firstborn. Is it firstborn? Yeah, we're going to see who can grow the biggest firstborn this month. Please like.
Yeah, we do need to do that.
Of course. And please hit the like button and please subscribe to both our channels. I'm pushing for 1K at the minute. We're going to do a big stream. Ecclesiarch and I are going to do a big Forge Clash battle on there. I'm going to have some of the guests dropping in. We're going to have some booster pack giveaways going on across a 12-hour streamathon once I hit the big 1K. So appreciate all your support. And yeah, thanks for joining me today, Ecclesiarch.
Thank you for having me. That was very interesting to go through all of these amazing changes because finally we got exactly what we wanted. So that's super.
Absolutely. Until the next time, guys, take it easy.
Take it easy, boys.